So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker for this evening, Dr. Walter Kimbrough. This Atlanta native was his high school salutatorian and student body president. Okay, now here comes the other part. He earned degrees from the University of Georgia, Miami University in Ohio, and a doctorate in higher education from Georgia State University. He served in positions at Emory University, Georgia State, Old Dominion, and in 2000 went to is that Albany?
They say Albany.
Okay.
Say Albany, but
yes. You're from Atlanta, you say Albany? Really? Okay. That's the Chicago and you saying Albany, isn't it? Okay. Albany State to become the Vice President of Student Affairs at the ripe old age of 32. In 2004, Dr. Kimbrough was named the 12th president of Philander Smith College, and at the advanced age of 37, in 2012, he went on to become the 7th president of Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Kimbrough.
Good evening. I'm gonna do it one more time. I'm a preacher's kid from the South, so it just helps me make sure y'all are with me. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. I want to thank the Tom Joyner Foundation for providing me with this opportunity to be with you tonight. I remember when I was at Albany State, and I say Albany. They do say Albany, but I say Albany. Tom came and did a Sky Show there, and he was a commencement speaker when I was president of Philander Smith. So I've had a personal chance to see his commitment to HBCUs up close and personal. So just on behalf of the HBCU community, thank you for everything you've done. And then Tom Jr., you had a chance to spend some time with this fall when our local alumni chapter had an event, and he and some of the members of the team came to be with us. There are a number of Dillard alums who are in the room. Y'all stand up real quick. Make sure I acknowledge the folks from Dillard. So the thing I need to say, I'm just going to be honest with y'all, I hate when college presidents speak. They not good. So for all the applicants, this is going to be the first in just a number of these speeches from college presidents that you'll probably forget most of them. So I'm trying to lower the bar. So I'm going to try to do the best that I can. So I thought about what I would talk about tonight. And so for a subject, I'm going to use this. Can you see Wakanda? Can you see Wakanda? So just like everybody around the country, we got excited with the movie Black Panther. I have a group of freshmen that I work with that work all of the lectures on campus. We have the best lecture series on the planet. It's called Brain Food. You check it out on the website. It's the best lecture series. I mean, this year I've had Issa Rae, Gabrielle Union, Angela Rye. I got Jamel Hill coming next Saturday. So we kill it every year. Okay. So anyway, my group that freshmen worked this lecture series with me, and in the fall they said we need to just have an outing. So what are we gonna do? And somebody said, well, Black Panther's coming out. We're gonna all go see Black Panther. Which means I had to come out of my pocket and pay to rent out this theater, which I did for my group. And so I filled it up with all those students, and then my two, who are 12 and 9, like, well, Daddy, we got to go see Black Panther. So I had to go see it with them first before I took my non-biological children. So I've seen it a couple of times. Just a fascinating movie, and just the energy, particularly with my students in the room, and they just moaning and screaming all throughout the movie. It was a good time. But as you know, and I'm not going to ask who's raised your hand, because if you haven't seen Black Panther, there's something wrong with you right now. So I'm not even going to ask you if you've seen it. If you haven't, just act like you have, okay? But one of the earliest scenes when they're coming into Wakanda, and T'Challa says this never gets old, as they go through this holographic camouflage in the Wakanda. The producer, Nate Moore, talks about that, and he says, if you think about the way the world works, whenever any country has something of value, it tends to draw a lot of eyes. it tends to draw you into conflict, frankly. I think Wakanda saw very early on that if people knew they had vibranium, which they do, they were going to be conquered or at least at war forever. So they did the smart thing. So I thought about this idea of this holographic camouflage and I applied it to HBCUs. And I was thinking, is there some kind of holographic camouflage that prevents people from seeing who we really are? But then, having worked, as you heard Sybil say, I've worked at a lot of predominantly white institutions too. I thought about them and said, maybe there is a different kind of holographic camouflage that makes us think that they are something that they aren't either. So for a few minutes, let's talk about how this holographic camouflage works, if that's okay. That's all right with y'all? Yes, sir. Okay. So point number one, I'm a United Methodist preacher's kid. That means I have 3 points too. Then I'm gonna see that, okay? So point number one, looks can be deceiving. Looks can be deceiving. So as you know in the movie, when you look at the border of Wakanda, it looks like a rural, agricultural African nation. From the outside, that's what people thought. And early on, when you see the scenes when they're in Korea, it's the more technology, the casino, all of that. So people are thinking that it's better. And sometimes even for colleges and universities, particularly for these scholars here, people base these schools on a superficial. They get excited about big brand names. You heard I went to the flagship in the state of Georgia, the University of Georgia. People get excited when you say, I'm going to Georgia. They get excited about that. Or if you attend an Ivy League institution, of course, those institutions carry a level of prestige. And so people get excited about that. But now sometimes we even get excited about multi-directional schools that I don't really understand why people get excited about those. And now people are looking for a Disney experience in higher education. Schools that have a concierge, a steakhouse on campus, a lazy river, a rock climbing wall, plasma TVs in the residence. This stuff is real. This is happening now on college campuses, okay? And so people get excited. They see this stuff and they're like, this is great. But I'm gonna tell you that because something looks good doesn't mean that it's good for you. Gallup did a poll along with Purdue in October of 2015, and the title of the study was, Grads of Historically Black Colleges Have Well-Being Edge. And in this study, it said that on these 5 areas of well-being, those who went to HBCUs were better off for purpose, social well-being, financial well-being, community well-being, and physical well-being. Black graduates of HBCUs were more likely than black graduates of other colleges to strongly agree that they had support and experiential learning opportunities in college that Gallup finds are strongly related to graduates' well-being later in life. In turn, these experiences may also contribute to black HBCU graduates being more likely to strongly agree that their colleges prepared them for life after graduation than black graduates of other institutions. 55% of those who went to HBCUs felt like they were better prepared. Only 29% felt they were better prepared had they not gone to HBCUs. More than 1 in 3 of those HBCU graduates strongly agreed they had a professor who cared about them as a person, who mentored them, encouraged them to pursue their goals. Only 12% of those who did not attend HBCUs. 35% versus 12%. The graduates of HBCUs were more likely to agree they had these experiences with the gap between HBCU and non-HBCU graduates the widest when recalling having professors who cared about them as people. It was almost 2 to 1. That they felt like somebody cared about their personal well-being. This is the HBCU experience. As you heard, I am not an HBCU graduate, but I feel like I am. I was at Philander for 7.5 years and Dillard at 6. I do actually now, I have an honorary degree from Philander, so I am an HBCU graduate. Let me go and take that back. I was president for 7.5 years. I'm like, that means I was on campus more than most alums. Hopefully, if you're there longer than 7 years, that's an issue. But I am married to a woman who graduated from Talladega College in Alabama. Kaylin is from Mobile. My wife is from Mobile. I give you one guess, and you better get it right, where she went to high school. Murphy. No, I'm asking Kaylin. Where did you go to high school? That's where she went. That was her. You're supposed to get that one right. I made it easy for you. I got married in Mobile, Tumanville Warren, United Methodist Church. My wife went to Davidson. She went to Talladega, small HBCU in Alabama, went to University of Cincinnati Law School. She's worked at law firms. She's a member of the bar in 4 states. She passed the bar in 4 states all the first time. All of them the first time. A lot of people struggle. Bar passing rate in a couple of turns in here, 40, 50, 60%. 4 different states all the first time. That's what she keeps saying, like, you can't move nowhere else. I ain't taking no more bars. I'm like, you good at it. Don't worry about it. What's the problem? It ain't a big deal for you, you know. She was working as an employment lawyer in New Orleans, and we had this opportunity at Dillard. They wanted to create a pre-law center after the first African-American who served on the Louisiana Supreme Court, Justice Revis Ortiz. So we did a search, couldn't find anybody. My wife was like, well, I'm sort of doing it, you know, for free right now, so I'm gonna come and do it at Dillard. And I'm like, man, you about to give up this good corporate law job to work at Dillard. But she believes in what this is about. And so when people talk about this Gallup experience, that's what she does for these students. I was telling one of our alums, Robert, that 2 years ago, we created a mock trial team. There are only like 6 HBCUs that have one. We just created one. The lead coach is one of the most distinguished judges in New Orleans. Volunteers his time, 2 nights a week is on our campus. There's a JAG attorney who's coaching, and she is. This year, our second year, we got out of the regional competition round, which meant our mock trial team in its second year was in the top 30% of all mock trial teams in the country. They got to the second round, the championship round. They didn't advance to the final round, but I told them, y'all got to at least draw blood. So when they went against the University of Texas at Austin, they split with them. UT Austin, 50-something, 60,000 students, okay? We got on our campus, half of the team made up of freshmen that have come in, been engaged, beating folks, okay? She tried to recruit a young woman from Alabama who went to the University of Alabama because she got caught up in what looked good. Roll Tide, University of Alabama. She was gonna go there and be on their mock trial team. Not only is the girl not on the mock trial team, the University of Alabama's mock trial team didn't get out the regional round, but ours did. Okay? So it's a part of that, but it's even the other things where you have students who are coming who need a suit for the competition, and she's calling me like, all right, can you go pick up Lydia and Benjamin, because I gotta take so-and-so to the mall to make sure she's got a suit and some shoes for the competition. They ain't really have a budget for this, it's just a second year of this program. So she's using her money, investing in those students. That's what we do. That's what we do. So yeah, people get excited. I see the University of and think it's better. Looks can be deceiving. That's point number 1. Point number 2, y'all still good? Point number 2, Vibranium is better than steel. Vibranium is better than steel. So here we are, you're excited about these brand names, bigger budgets, new facilities. And so most of the time we think when you add these together, you say it's better. I mean, so most of these, when we think about a lot of things, it makes sense. People will say, yes, a Porsche is better than a Ford. They would say a Rolex is better than a Timex. They would say a filet mignon is better than a Big Mac. They would say Janet Jackson is better than Beyonce. Why y'all laughing? Janet Jackson is better than Beyonce. Y'all need to start laughing because I'm about to have my feelings hurt. So anyway, so we've watched this change over the last 60 years. I'm a part of that group that had these opportunities and started to say, well, maybe there are opportunities for us at predominantly white institutions. Brown versus Board, 1954, 90% of African Americans went to HBCUs. Today, we're about 8% of African Americans. And so the idea would be that people were leaving HBCUs and going to these better schools, okay? These schools are better, so we should leave HBCUs. But I got messed up about a year or 2 ago. The president of Meharry, who did his medical school training at Georgetown, told me he read a story that said there were fewer black men in medical school today than there were in 1978. I was like, that can't be right. So he said, check out the study from the American Medical Association. And the study says since 1978, the number of black males applying to and attending medical school in this country has declined. So then I started to do the math. In 1980, there were 463 black men enrolled in higher education. By 2015, that number has swelled to 998,000. So it doubled. There are twice as many black men in higher education in 2015 as there were in 1978. So y'all help me now. Y'all smarter than me, even though I was number 2 in my high school class. I should have been number 1, but they didn't count the 8th grade, so I'm still salty about that. So if the number of black male collegians has doubled in almost 4 decades, and most of these students have attended predominantly white institutions, but there are fewer that have gone to and graduated from medical school, that means it's a lot of people that got lost along the way. It's just simple math. Think about it like this. If I make 50 out of 100 3-point attempts, and the next year I come back and I make 40 out of 200, that's not good. I've gotten worse. And so we have fewer that are in medical school than 1978, but there are twice as many men in higher education, and most of them are not going to HBCUs. The same numbers are replicated. There's a study that Columbia Law School did. Same thing is happening. So we got up in our mind, we bought into this holographic camouflage about mainstream universities, and we've convinced students and parents of color that they are better. But the data says otherwise. So the vibranium of the HBCU experience, for many people, is better than steel. Last point. Wakanda only exists at HBCUs. I will always tell students, and I tell this today, go to the place that is the best fit for you. Because if you go to a place that's a good fit, you will be successful. The University of Georgia was good for me. I grew up in Atlanta. All of my schools, K through 12, 98% black church. So I was solid in who I was as a person. I could go see what was at the University of Georgia. I could go to Miami and Oxford, Ohio, and go the whole day and see nobody who looked like me and survive, and that was okay for me. But you need to understand, if you don't choose an HBCU, where you are going. Because all of those places and everywhere I went, I love all of them, but none of them have a Wakanda feel to them, no matter how much you try to make it. Now, students of color get on these campuses, and I worked at them. I worked at an Emory in Georgia State and Old Dominion. So I've seen them do this. We create the Black Student Union or Black Student Association. We really get entrenched in historically black and Latin and Asian fraternities and sororities. We look for cultural centers and cultural theme halls and residence halls. The newest thing, well, really since the late 90s, it started out in California. I spoke at one at Cal State Long Beach in like 98. Black student graduations, where the day before graduation, all the black students, and on big campuses now, every ethnic group has a graduation before graduation. So they have proliferated it. Everybody has their commencement ceremony. So this year is the first year they will have one of those at Boston University. And one of their students wrote about the importance of this ceremony in their newspaper maybe a couple weeks ago. And in this, she writes, "My excitement to apply to and attend Boston University emerged largely from its promise of diversity on campus. I wrote my personal statement in my application about how much I was interested in diversity. I even threw the word diversity into my college essay a few times for good measure. I learned to sprinkle the word, which has lost much of its meaning since I first heard it, to my advantage in years that I have been made to try out for things so I can learn more or gain extra experience." She goes on then to say, "In gaining access to spaces where people boast how diverse they are, I found out one simple truth. Diversity is often all for show. It seems to be more of a tool to appear less racist, less sexist, less homophobic than it is about actually accepting marginalized people and allowing them equal opportunity in predominantly white spaces. This campus has far fewer people of color than any visiting weekend would like potential students to believe." She lays it out. And so, of course, when you have something like that, people come at you anonymously in the comment sections. And so there was a student who came for, and before that, the student goes on and she's talking about, she says, positive change had come because now black students can have a separate graduation commencement run by Umoja, the Black Student Union. So they're excited about it, but the student who came for us said, you're talking from both sides of your mouth. Segregation is segregation. Excluding others on the basis of their race is bigotry. All those who sacrifice so much for civil rights must be turning in their graves because of people like you who are trying to undo everything achieved. What is wrong with you people? Well, some of her friends had her back, so they came back and they had some other ways to define it. But even in their defense of her, they said things that troubled me. They said, do you think the student body and or administration created an environment where black students were fully integrated in the first place? Did black students receive the support they needed to thrive at a competitive university? Were they embraced by their peers as equals, not as tokens, and did their peers understand them? One person said the things these students have gone through and put up with to get these degrees is beyond comprehension. And I'm thinking, why would you even want to go to a place where you just got to survive? Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? You try to create some Wakandan experience and have this commencement ceremony, but it's not Wakanda. It is what it is, and you have to understand that when you go there. So if you really want that experience, it doesn't make those places bad. Like I said, I graduated from 3 of them. You have to accept them for what they are, but they're not Wakanda. Or as my wife liked to say, if you go to France, don't get mad because the people speak French. It's France. It's a predominantly white institution. That's what they do. Don't get upset because that's what they do. If you want Wakanda, you're not going to be able to recreate that another place. So you have to choose the best fit for you. Well, as I wrap this all up, I think about the end of the movie Black Panther, and they're at the UN, and T'Challa is giving his passionate speech. And it's a great part of the movie. But he says, Wakanda will no longer watch from the shadows. We cannot. We must not. We will work to be an example of how we as brothers and sisters on this earth should treat each other. Now more than ever, the illusions of division threaten our very existence. We all know the truth. More connects us than divides us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges and the foolish build barriers. We must find a way to look after one another as if we were one single tribe. Ladies and gentlemen, all of you are very talented. We heard Thomas Jr. gave the minimum criteria. One will win this scholarship. The others will get plenty of scholarship offers. And that's really easy. I hear the numbers. It's like, yeah, they will qualify for scholarships with us. You don't have an issue. You're going to be good wherever you go. But the goal is you got to find a place that's a good fit for you. You got to ask, is this place a good fit for what I need? Is it going to nurture the person that I want to become? Are they going to pour into me and push me to be the kind of person? That's the conversations I'm having on my campus now, to try to push some students who get comfortable doing the same things. It's like, how do I take it to another level? Because we don't have time for folks to just go to college and be comfortable. They got to get out there and compete and do all these other things. So you want to be able to do that. So at the very least, though, make sure you take time to look through these holographic camouflages of all colleges and universities so you can find that fit. Some are camouflaged by these promises of diversity and inclusion and climbing walls and lazy rivers, and people get excited about that, and people in your high school and your counselors might even say, why would you even consider an HBCU? Because they see that holographic camouflage and they think it's subpar. So you can't let that. You got to be able to look through on those other campuses as well. But I also know that there's another group of institutions that, once again, on the surface, some people might say are lacking. They can't really see through the camouflage. But inside, you'll find a Wakandan spirit, a Vibranium-infused culture that continues to overproduce, overperform, and overdeliver. So congratulations to all of you tonight. You're all winners. You're all going to be very successful. Make sure you get the best fit for you. Oh, and lastly, Wakanda forever.